LeBron James. A name almost everyone in the world knows. Even if you're not a sports fan, you most likely know the name LeBron James. But did you know that he was homeless? Or that he once played with Michael Jordan? These are just 2 examples of 10 of the craziest facts you didn't know about the King from Cleveland. Let's get into the video. Number 1. He once played with Michael Jordan. We all know these are 2 of the best players to ever play the game and are heavily debated to who's the better player. But did you know they once played together? It was June 2001. LeBron met Jordan and played in a pickup game with him. James was 16 years old, and Jordan was preparing to make his final comeback. But they didn't play on the same team that day. 2 years later, James got the chance to play on the same team as Jordan. After James was drafted number 1 overall and signed an $87 million deal with Nike, he was invited to take part in Jordan's annual summer camp at UC Santa Barbara. Could you imagine 2 of the greatest players of all time playing on the same team? Number 2. An injury prevented him from pursuing his NFL dream. We all know LeBron was a great football player and know he could have gone pro, but many don't know why he didn't. James played both football and basketball through middle and high school. In June 2002, just before his senior year, he broke his wrist during an AAU game. Because of the 2-month recovery time, James decided he needed to forego football season so that he'd be fully healed for his senior basketball season. This put a halt on LeBron's dreams of playing pro football. Now, we can only imagine what LeBron would have been like in the NFL. Number 3. LeBron was the first black man on the cover of Vogue. There were only 2 men that had ever made a Vogue cover before LeBron did it in April 2008. George Clooney and Richard Gere. LeBron's cover arrived with controversy. Observers noted how much the Annie Leibovitz pictorial, which featured James alongside supermodel Gisele Bündchen, recalled racist U.S. Army imagery from World War I that used King Kong as a symbol of a mad brute, alongside a white damsel in distress. Number 4. He wasn't the highest paid player on his own team until age 31. LeBron, being whom many won't argue the best player at the time, should be the highest paid player in the league, right? Well, he wasn't even the highest paid player on his own team until the 2016-17 season, let alone in the league. He was surrounded by a number of league veterans during his first stint with the Cleveland Cavaliers, including an aging and injury-racked Shaquille O'Neal, and James famously agreed to take less than his full market value in order to form a super team with the Miami Heat in 2010. He hit the top of pay grade during his second go-around with the Cavaliers, and his new 4-year deal with the Lakers puts him on track to be the highest paid player ever. Number 5. He's actually left-handed. Many may not know this, but James is actually left-handed. It's strange to see LeBron shooting left-handed because we are used to him using the other hand. But in reality, LeBron has always been left-handed. What's very LeBron James about all of this is that he grew up left-handed, but saw his favorite players shooting right-handed. So he shot that way instead as a kid. "I have no idea how I became a right-handed basketball player," he said. "I think maybe it was because of Michael Jordan, Penny Hardaway, guys that I looked up to growing up. Seeing those guys shoot righty, I guess I'll shoot righty." Number 6. The real reason why LeBron chose to wear number 6. On July 8, 2010, LeBron James announced that he would be taking his talents to Miami. But changing teams wasn't the only thing he changed. He would also change his famed number 23 to 6. You can also see LeBron wearing number 6 on his Olympic USA team and in practice. So why did he choose this number? Well, there's actually a couple reasons. The first reason is because of Michael Jordan. James said there would be no LeBron James, no Kobe Bryant, no Dwayne Wade if there wasn't Michael Jordan first. James went on to talk about why he decided on the number 6, which also explains why he wore it in the Olympics and at various Cavaliers practices over the years. LeBron simply holds Jordan to a higher standard than the other great players. The best way he could honor Jordan is to give up what he considered an unwearable number. LeBron explains his other reasons. "My second favorite player was Julius Erving, and he wore number 6, James said. "I wore 32 in high school because Dr. J wore it at first. My first child was born on October 6th, and my second child was born in June," he explained. Number 7. He was homeless. LeBron now owns a $23 million mansion in Los Angeles with a net worth of over $480 million. But growing up in Akron, Ohio, it was the exact opposite. He would spend his 4th grade year sleeping on a couch in a one-bedroom apartment that belonged to another of his mother's friends, where parties continued late into the night and police were sometimes called to investigate noise violations. His mom, 25-year-old Gloria, had recently quit a job at Payless Shoes, according to a friend. She was living on welfare. She liked to go out, friends said, and sometimes left LeBron to supervise himself. Often, he chose not to go to school, spending his days immersed in video games, shuttling between the apartment and a corner store where his mother's food stamps paid for his snacks. By then, James had already spent 2/3 of his life essentially without a home, moving every few months with Gloria from one apartment to the next. LeBron would later stay with his football coach and would get his young life together and become the man he is today. Number 8. He is a part owner of Liverpool. Liverpool is one of the most well-known soccer clubs in the world. They recently officially secured its first Premier League title and its first top-flight league title in 30 years, adding an exclamation point to one of the most dominant seasons in the history of English soccer. And LeBron was a small part of that. James bought a 2% stake in the club back in 2011 for $6.5 million. He is now officially the part owner of a champion. Make that 4 championship titles for LeBron. Not only that, Forbes estimated Liverpool's value to be $2.13 billion, meaning James's stake would now be worth roughly $43.6 million. Number 9. He rejected $10 million when he was 18 years old. In 2003, when LeBron was 18 years old in high school, he made the best decision anyone could have ever made in their life. According to James, he took a meeting with former Reebok chairman and CEO Paul Fireman. In the meeting, Fireman offered James $10 million upfront to sign with Reebok and not talk to Nike or Adidas. According to James, he was bewildered by the process. When Fireman slid the check down the table and he said, "Listen, if you take this right now, you just promise me you won't go talk to Nike or Adidas." While Carter said he was encouraging James to take the money, something inside of James told him to wait and see what other companies could offer. I started thinking, if he's willing to give me a $10 million check right now, what is to say if Nike or Adidas isn't willing to give me $20 or $30 million upfront? Or to say if maybe the upfront money isn't the biggest thing. Maybe let's start thinking about the back end, James said. A very adroit decision. James's first deal with Nike was for a reported $90 million, stunning for an 18-year-old with no pro experience. His decision paid off further as he then signed a lifetime deal with Nike worth $1 billion, if not more, in 2015. Number 10. LeBron used to smoke marijuana. In the book Shooting Stars, written by James and co-author Buzz Bissinger, James said the SI cover and the media attention he and his high school teammates received was difficult to handle. "We had become big-headed jerks, me in particular," James said, "and we are to blame for that, but so are adults who treated us that way and then sat back and smugly watched the self-destruction." In the book, the NBA's reigning MVP recounts the media circus that enveloped his final 2 years at St. Vincent St. Mary High School following his SI cover appearance. James said he and close friends Drew Joyce, Sean Cotton, Romeo Travis, and Willie McGee, nicknamed the Fab Five, took advantage of their celebrity. "I was arrogant, dubbing myself the chosen one," James said. "In hindsight, I should have kept quiet, but I also was what I was, a teenager where every reporter in the world seemed to be rushing toward me at once." James also revealed he and his teammates smoked marijuana one night after getting access to a hotel room in Akron. Also, after struggling with sudden fame and appearing on Sports Illustrated cover as a 17-year-old, he admits he smoked marijuana during his junior year in high school. James said the experience drew he and his friends closer and proved to be valuable life lessons. That's it for this video. What was the craziest thing you learned today? Tell us in the comments below. And as always, like and subscribe for more.